Hello learners, welcome back to my channel Shraddha's Physics. In this part we will discuss some functions of the complex variable. That is, in this part we will see what are complex number, that is the minimum formula we will discuss here, and that after we will discuss about the Cauchy's theorem, the different Cauchy-Riemann condition, Cauchy's integral theorem, Cauchy's integral formula, its residue theorem, etc. And that after we will solve some basic important questions. Suppose let us consider z to be the complex number, so we can represent this as x plus iy, where x and y are the real number and this part is the real part and iy part is known as the imaginary part, and the complex conjugate of this, that is z star, we can write this as x minus iy, and I can say that this conjugate of x minus iy will be x plus iy. Okay. Now if I will represent this in the plane, that is your Argand plane, suppose this one is your x axis, that is the real axis, and this is suppose y axis, that is the imaginary axis, and here suppose a point P lies at this point, and if I will draw the position vector here, so this point P is, if I will draw the perpendicular on the x axis, this distance is x, and similarly if I will draw a perpendicular on the y axis, suppose this distance is y, so that its coordinates are x and y. And here we can write the modulus of z, that is equal to the root over of x square plus y square, and that is simply represented as r, and this one is your r. So if I will calculate the argument of z, so now the argument of z we can denote it as, suppose theta, that is equal to tan inverse y by x. So this is called the argument of z. So the conjugate of the complex number, it is nothing but the reflection about the real axis. So now you can write some basic properties, that is if I will take two complex number modulus, that is z1, and if I will take the addition of this z1 plus z2 modulus, this should be always lesser equal to mod z1 plus mod z2. Okay, these are some basic properties and these are some important we can say. And the next one is, if I subtract z1 minus z2 modulus, then it will be greater or equal to mod z1 minus mod z2. Okay. And similarly, if I will multiply this z1 with the z2, then this is equal to mod z1 into mod z2. And if I will divide this z1 divided by z2 modulus, that is equal to mod z1 divided by mod z2. Only the important thing is z1 plus z2 mod will be lesser equal to mod z1 plus mod z2, and z1 minus z2 whole mod greater equal to mod z1 minus mod z2. Similarly, some more property we can say, the argument of z1 into z2 we can write equal to, this is your argument of z1 plus argument of z2, and similarly argument of z1 divided by z2, this is equal to argument of z1 minus argument of z2. Okay. Now we will see how we can represent in the polar form. Now we know in Cartesian form we can write z equal to x plus iy. This is your Cartesian representation. And also in polar form we can write z equal to r cos theta. Because from this diagram you can see from this graph, that is your Argand plane, if this angle is theta, suppose it makes an angle theta with the x axis, then simply this x will be equal to r cos theta, and y means this part, this is your r sin theta. Okay. So here I can write, since x equal to r cos theta, we can write this is r cos theta I cap plus, sorry, this is your r cos theta plus this is your iota. In place of y, I will write r sin theta. This is the polar representation. Or simply we can write, if I will take common r, then this will be cos theta plus I sin theta. This is simply exponential I theta. Okay. So this z equal to r e power I theta. This is the polar form, and r is the modulus and theta is the argument of z. Okay. And you should note that the cos theta plus iota sin theta, that is equal to exponential I theta. This is called the Euler's formula. Okay. This is called Euler's formula. Euler's formula. And also, if you write the de Moivre's formula, de Moivre's form, that is your de Moivre's theorem. De Moivre's theorem. Just make a short note of it. De Moivre's theorem, you know, this is equal to cos theta plus I sin theta whole power n, that is equal to cos n theta plus I sin n theta. Okay, this is known as your de Moivre's theorem. And also you should note that the modulus of z can be written as equal to the root over of z into z star, that is the complex conjugate of the z. Okay, and you know, since this iota, that is equal to root over of minus 1, so I square will be equal to minus 1. Okay, similarly I cube equal to minus I power 4 equal to 1. So in general I can write I power plus or minus 4k, that is equal to 1, iota power plus or minus 4k plus 1, that is equal to plus or minus iota, iota power plus or minus 4k plus 2, that is equal to, and similarly I power plus or minus 4k plus 2 can be written as, this is minus 1, I power plus or minus 4k plus 3, that is equal to minus or plus iota. Okay, so these are some basic rules of iota. And you should note that when you will calculate the complex cube root of unity, so that is x equal to 1 omega and omega square, these are the roots of the x. When s cube equal to 1, and when you will solve this one, so you will get the value of x equal to 1 omega and omega square, where omega value equal to minus 1 plus or minus, sorry, this is minus 1 plus root 3 iota divided by 2, and similarly omega square we can write, this is equal to minus 1 minus root 3I divided by 2. So these are the, and 1 is a 1. Okay, so these are the three roots of the x. And when you will add all this, that is 1 plus omega square, when you will add all this, you will get 0. But when you will multiply this, that is 1 into omega square, that is equal to omega cube, you will get 1. Okay, so this value equal to 1. Now let us solve one question. Suppose the question is given to find the complex number z such that argument of z plus 1, it is given, that is equal to pi by 6, and argument of z minus 1, its value equal to 2 pi by 3. Okay, and here it is given z minus 1 equal to x plus iota y minus 1, and z plus 1, this is equal to x plus iota y plus 1. Okay, so you have to calculate the value of x and y. So first of all, here you can see argument of z plus 1 and argument of z minus 1 is given. But here from this expression, that is z plus 1 equal to s plus iota y plus 1, here I can write this is equal to z plus 1 equal to x plus 1, this is the real part, plus iota y, it is the imaginary part, and here also this is the x minus 1 real part plus iota y, this is your imaginary part. So in general we can write z equal to x plus iy, so that if I will write the argument of z, you will write that is equal to tan inverse y by x. So this is the rule. But here in place of, this is the z minus 1 and this one is your z plus 1. So in this part, if I will consider this z minus 1 to be x and here also z plus 1 to be x, z plus 1 to be z, sorry, just like this, if I will calculate the argument of z, so here I can write for this one, this argument of z plus 1 means this is the tan inverse of y, means the imaginary part here is y divided by the real part is here x minus 1. Okay, and its value equal to pi by 6. It is given. And similarly, from this expression we can write this is your z plus 1. Sorry, this one is your z minus 1 and this is your z plus 1. So here let me correct this. So here I can write this is the tan inverse of, so this part will be the z plus 1. So for that this will be y by x plus 1, that is equal to pi by 6. And similarly for this argument of z minus 1, I have to take this one. This will be tan inverse of y divided by x minus 1 and its value equal to 2 pi by 3. Okay. Simply we are doing this imaginary part divided by the real part, that is y by x plus 1 in this case, and here this is your z minus 1 argument. So for this argument of z minus 1 I will write this is the tan inverse of y by x minus 1 and its value equal to 2 pi by 3. And now from this expression if I will calculate y divided by x plus 1, this is equal to tan of pi by 6. So you know tan of pi by 6 equal to 1 by root 3. Okay, and similarly from this expression you can calculate y by x minus 1 equal to tan of 2 pi by 3. Tan of 2 pi by 3 and its value equal to how much? Minus root 3. So if I will compare this equation, if I will divide y by x plus 1 divided by y by x minus 1, this will be x minus 1 divided by x plus 1 and it is equal to 1 by root 3 divided by minus root 3, and here this is equal to minus 1 by 3. Simply just solving this one, this x minus 1 divided by x plus 1, this is equal to minus 1 by 3. So just cross multiplying we will get 3x minus 3 equal to minus x minus 1. That implies 3x plus x, that is your 4x, equal to 3 minus 1, that is your 2. That implies x is equal to 1 by 2. Okay, and from this expression, that is y by x plus 1 equal to 1 by root 3, or from this expression if I will put the value x equal to 1 by 2, I will get y divided by x value is 1 by 2. So this is 1 by 2 minus 1 equal to minus root 3. That implies y divided by minus half equal to minus root 3. That implies finally we can write y value will be equal to root 3 by 2. Okay. So from this we can calculate. So we have calculated the value of x equal to half and y equal to root 3 by 2. Since we know z equal to x plus I by, so we can write this is 1 by 2 plus iota root 3 by 2, or we can write 1 by 2 whole into 1 plus root 3i. So in this way you can solve. Now we will discuss about the analytic function. Okay. So when a function is called analytic function, that is if the function is defined at the point, suppose let me write, if the function is f of z, the function is called the analytic at some point z equal to z naught if it is single valued and it has the derivative at every point in some neighborhood of z naught. Then we can say that this function is analytic at the point z equal to z naught. Now if I will discuss about the Cauchy-Riemann condition, that is to check whether the function is analytic or not, we have to simply check dou u by dou x, it should be equal to dou v by dou y and dou u by dou y equal to minus dou v by dou x. So this is the Cartesian representation. Now in the polar form we can write the Cauchy-Riemann condition, that is dou u by dou r is equal to 1 by r dou v by dou theta and 1 by r dou u by dou theta, that is equal to minus dou v by dou r. Okay, minus dou v by dou r. So this is the Cauchy-Riemann condition in polar form. Now let us discuss about the singular point. So when a function or the point is called the singular, that is the function is not analytic. In the simple word we can say when the function is not analytic in nature, then that point is called as the singular point. Suppose for example if I will say 1 by z minus 2. If I will put the value z equal to 2, Then if I'll substitute the value 2 here, then 1 by 2 minus 2 is your 0. So this is your 1 by 0. It means this is equal to infinite. So the function is not defined here. So in this case we can say that the function at the point z equal to 2 will be the singular point. Now this singular point can be further divided into basically three types. First of all, this is your isolated essential singular point. Isolated essential singular point. Okay, singular point. So now you can see here, if the principal part of the Lorentz series expansion, it contains the infinite number of negative power terms. Suppose, for example, if I will say, suppose the function f of z equal to exponential 1 by z minus 4. Okay, this part you can write as, suppose exponential x, you can write it as this is equal to sum over x power n divided by n factor. So for this expression exponential 1 by z minus 4, we can write this as this is equal to 1 plus 1 by z minus 4 plus 1 by z minus 4 whole square into 2 factorial and so on. In this way you can write. Now you can see here, if I put the value z equal to 4, so there are infinite number of terms are here. Okay, that is z minus 4 square, z minus 4 power 3 and so on. This is 1 by z minus 4, 1 by z minus 4 square and so on. So this is called the isolated essential singular point. That is the principal part of the Lorentz series expansion. It will contain the infinite number of negative power of the term, that is your z minus a. Okay, so this z equal to a and here this z equal to 4, it is called the isolated essential singular point. Now the next one is the isolated non-essential singular point. Isolated non-essential singular point. So in this case, suppose for example I will say f of z equal to 1 by z into z plus 2 whole cube. Okay. Now if I put the value z equal to 0 or if I put z equal to minus 2, then for only this value the function is called the singular function, or this point 0 and minus 2, these are called the singular point. But here if the principal part of the Lorentz series expansion, it contains finite number here. Okay, but in the previous case you see there are infinite number of terms are possible. But here in this case, that is isolated non-essential singular point, it contains the finite number of points. Okay, these are the finite number. So that's why it is called the isolated non-essential singular point. So this is for z equal to 0. Okay, and z minus 2, these are z equal to minus 2, these are the isolated non-essential singular point. Now from this we can also calculate the pole. Okay, that is the when z equal to 0, here the power is 1, so we can say z equal to 0, at z equal to 0, this is the pole of order 1, and here in this case when z equal to minus 2, here the power is 3, so we can say that this is the pole of order 3. Okay, this is the pole of order 3. That is at z equal to minus 2, the pole is of order 3. Now the another type of singular point we can say, this is your isolated removable singular point. Okay, so in this case, for example, if I consider the function f of z equal to sin z divided by z. So in this part, if I will put the value z equal to 0, this is in the form of 0 by 0 form. So this is undefined. So if I will just split this equation, that is 1 by z, this term that is sin z, if I will write in the form of series, this will be z minus z cube by 3 factorial plus z power 5 divided by 5 factorial and so on. Okay, now if I will cancel this one, so that is if I will multiply this 1 by z with this z, this will be 1 minus this next term will be z square by 3 factorial, then this will be plus z power 4 by 5 factorial and so on. And here you can see there will be no negative power of z here. Okay, so here we can say that this z equal to 0, it is the removable singular point of the function f of z, because this sin z by z, you know, by applying the L'Hospital rule, simply limit z tends to 0, sin z by z, that is equal to 1. So here this is called the removable. So singular point has been removed here. So if the principal part of the Laurent series expansion of the function, that is f of z, it contains no negative power of z, then we can say that this z equal to point, suppose at z equal to a point, this is called the removable singular point of f of z. Here I am not going in brief detail, this is just the summary of the topic. So now we will see what is Cauchy's integral. What is Cauchy's integral theorem? Okay, Cauchy's integral theorem. So you know what is Cauchy's integral theorem? That is integration over the function f of z dz, that is equal to 0. So it means that if the function f of z, it is analytic throughout a simply connected region, it bounded in some particular domain D, then for every closed contour C in that domain D, we can write f of z dz integration will be equal to 0. And similarly, the Cauchy's integral formula, that is if the function is analytic, that is the function f of z is analytic and it is single valued within and on the closed contour C, then we can write at the function, that is the function at the point is z0, we can represent this as equal to 1 by 2 pi I times integration over f of z divided by z minus z0 into dz. So this is the function. And here the integral is taken in the counterclockwise sense. Now we will see residue. Okay. So residue, when we will calculate the residue, so this residue, it is a singular point. So it means that if we will calculate the residue, so first of all if you will see for the simple pole. Simple pole means the pole of order 1. Okay, if we will see for the simple pole, we can calculate the simple pole, that is residue of f of z, we can calculate this is equal to limit z tends to a, we will solve this some question here. So limit z tends to a z minus a into f of z. So for the simple pole we have to calculate like this, or for the simple pole, if the function f of z, it is in the form of some function, suppose phi 1 of z divided by the other function, suppose phi 2 of z. When it is in the form of the fraction, now we can calculate the residue of this function, that is we can calculate the residue of f at some z equal to a, that is equal to phi 1 of z divided by phi 2, the derivative of phi 2 of z. Okay, this is at point z equal to a. So this is for the simple pole or the pole of order 1, we can calculate the residue of the function. Now if we want to calculate the residue of the pole of order n, okay, if it is the pole of order n, so for that case we can calculate the residue of the function f of z, that is equal to 1 by n minus 1 whole factorial d power n minus 1, that is the nth derivative, n minus 1th derivative dz of n minus 1 whole into z minus a power n into f of z. Okay, so for the pole of order n, we can calculate in this way. And also we can calculate the residue for the point at infinite. Now we will see what is Cauchy's residue theorem. So Cauchy's residue theorem is the integration over the closed contour C f of z dz, that is equal to 2 pi I times the sum over the residue of the function. So no need to worry, we will solve some question. So in that part we will discuss this type of questions here, that is equal to, here also we can write this is 2 pi I into the sum of all the sum of residue at all singularities. Okay, sum of residue at all singularities. This is the Cauchy's residue theorem. So let us start with the first question. To integrate the function, that is dx by 1 plus a square over 0 to infinite, we will use the contour, that is real axis and the unit circle, that is mod z equal to 1, or the real axis and the lower half of the circle, that is mod z equal to r, or the real axis and upper half the circle with mod z equal to r, and the circle, that is mod z equal to r. Okay, you can find this part on the last of this chapter, that is your complex variable last part, integration of the definite integral. So here the correct answer will be the real axis and the upper half of the circle, that is mod z equal to r. Now the next question is the locus represented by z minus 5 minus 6i modulus equal to 4 is a circle with the center 5 6 and radius 4, and what or the ellipse. Okay, so let us first write in place of z. If I write, this is your x plus iota y minus 5, and here it is minus 6i. Okay, and the modulus of this is equal to 4. So it modulus means if I write the real part, that is your x minus 5, and your imaginary part, this is your plus iota y minus 6, and you have to take the modulus of this, this is equal to 4, and you know the modulus of this will be equal to root over of x square plus y square, or root over of real part square plus imaginary part square. So this is simply x minus 5 whole square plus y minus 6 whole square root over, that is equal to 4, or simply by removing this root over I can write this is your 4 square, or that is equal to, let me write 4 square. Okay, now it is in the form of the circle equation, that is the circle with the center 5 and 6, that is x and y value will be 5 and 6, and here the radius you can see the radius will be 4. So this one is our correct answer. So from this equation you have to simply write the z equal to s plus iy, and after solving you will get the circle equation. Now the next question, if mod z1 plus mod z2 equal to mod z1 minus z2, then the difference of the amplitude of z1 and z2 is, so you can solve or directly can remember this is equal to pi by 2. The next question is a point at which a function f of z is ceases to be analytic, it is called, so you know it is called the singularity. The next question is, if in a principal part of f of z there are infinite number of terms, then z equal to a or z equal to z naught is, it is the essential singularity. Okay, because it is infinite number of terms are given, so for the infinite number of terms this is essential singularity. The next question is, if f of z has a pole at z equal to a, then z tends to a minus will be, so here the correct answer will be the modulus of f of z tends to 0. Then the next question, the limit point of the poles of a function f of z is, it is a pole or a non-isolated singularity, or an isolated singularity, or a non-isolated essential singularity. So the limit point of the pole of the function f of z. Okay, so this will be the non-isolated essential singularity. The next question, the kind of singularity of the function 1 by sin z minus cos z at z equal to pi by 4. So here this is the simple pole, that is its power is 1, so it is the simple pole. The next question, at z equal to 0, this tan 1 by z has a simple pole or an isolated singularity, or a non-isolated singularity, or a double pole. So here the correct answer is, it is a non-isolated singularity. The next question is, at z equal to infinite, z cosec z has. So the correct answer will be a non-isolated singularity. Okay, this is your non-isolated singularity, z cosec z has. The next is the residue of the function f of z at a simple pole z equal to a is. The residue of the function you have to calculate at the pole z equal to a is, we can write, this is the direct question. So this will be limit z tends to a z minus a into f of z. So this is the formula to calculate the simple pole for the point z equal to a, that is the residue of the function at the simple pole. Now the next question is, you have to calculate the residue of the function z square minus 2z divided by this much. So here you have to calculate the pole at z equal to minus 1. So here you can see it is of the pole of order 2, that is z plus 1 square means this, here the z value equal to minus 1. When you put this value, that is minus 1, the total function goes to the infinite. So here if I put z equal to minus 1, so let me write limit z tends to minus 1. Here I am calculating the residue of the function, that is the pole, here is 2, pole of order 2. So this will be d by dz of z plus 1 square into this total function I have to write, that is z square minus 2z divided by z plus 1 whole square into z square plus 4. So this term get cancelled. So now if we will take the derivative, if we will take the limit value, and also here you have to calculate the derivative one, limit z tends to minus 1 d by dz of something, that is you can write this is z square plus 4 into the derivative of this will be 2z minus 2 again minus z square minus 2z whole into 2z divided by simply calculating the derivative. Okay, this is z square plus 4 whole square, and after calculation and after substituting the value, that is z equal to minus 1, you will get the answer will be equal to minus 14 by 25. Okay, simply you have to substitute the value z equal to minus 1. So the answer will be minus 14 by 25. Now let us see the next question. You have to calculate the residue of this function at z equal to 3. So simply it is the pole of order 1. Simply you have to write limit z tends to 3 and you have to subtract this term z minus 3. And simply you have to multiply f of z, that is z cube divided by z minus 1 whole power 4, z minus 2 into z minus 3. So this z minus 3 get cancelled. If I put the value of 3 in place of z, this will be 27 divided by, this will be 3 minus 1, that is 2 power 4, that is 16 into z minus 2 means 3 minus 2, that is 1. So the answer will be 27 by 16. Okay. So this is all for today. In the next class we will continue this part, and if you have any doubt can ask me in the comment section. Thank you all.